I hold a baseline level of detestation for a lot of the MCU shills or, some of James Gunn's nut huggers that are over there. I think a lot of them are fairly pathetic, and we talk about them on a regular basis. But one demographic of fans that I absolutely despise, because unlike a lot of the MCU stuff, which, yeah, I like Phase 1 well enough. I've seen Avengers in theaters. I really like Iron Man and all that crap. I've kind of been out of the race on that one. And James Gunn's, all of his movies in general, they have just been so unappealing to me that I can just point and laugh at his interviews and make snide remarks about his ego, and that more than enough holds me over. Some of the Snyder bots that are out there, I mean, like somebody who watched and endured a lot of the praise that Snyder got in his early career. Like, there are certain fandoms, and if you like that stuff, go for it. That's totally fine. I'm just not exactly gonna take your recommendations or hold your opinion in that high of regard if you think that, especially in Marvel, anything in Phase 4 and beyond is of high quality, or especially, James Gunn's DC projects. Like, it's just not going to be great. But the demographic of fans, the grouping of online communities that I think are the worst and the ones that I hold the highest level of contempt are online wrestling fans. The internet wrestling community are fucking atrocious. They are the worst collection of basement dwelling fruits that have fucking ruined something that I have loved for about as long as I can remember loving anything. I'm a big professional wrestling fan, or at least I was in my youth. I dipped out after kind of the guy that we're going to be talking about in about half of this video really started to get to the top and bore the pants off of me in the industry. But then I checked in about, what was that, Royal Rumble that AJ Styles came back in right before that atrocious WrestleMania that I still think is probably going on in the background somewhere. And since then, while I haven't watched a show in a very long time, I keep a base level of awareness on. I follow a lot of the reviews of a bunch of the shows that are out there, so I have a general understanding about what's kind of going on, but all of it just seems so universally unappealing that I just can't help but lament the people that nut hug. Oh my god, peak fire. Oh, this shit's so awesome. Oh my god, I love women's wrestling. All that other all of those simp tendencies. Like, you are the type of people that have cheered this shit into the ground for years and years at this point in time. And instead of making a difference in the booking, instead of having your voices heard, no, you just decide to go attack people that are far more successful than you. Because, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the performer that is John Cena. I'm not a fan of him as an actor either. But as a guy, I think he's pretty decent. I think he's pretty cool. Like, he's had a couple of peek behind the curtains. A certain apology to China on behalf of Taiwan aside. He seems like a pretty level-headed guy. That's kind of based as well. And especially when I hear shit like this, John Cena made his ex, Nikki Bella, sign a 75-page contract before moving into his mansion, referring to her as a guest with strict rules, like leaving the house with nothing if the relationship ended, which it did 5 years later, which is fucking based on so many different levels that I cannot possibly get to all of them. But given the fact that she signed that 75-page contract, kind of lets you know what type of guy John Cena is to her, in her eyes. There we go. Because even after this relationship fell apart a few years back, I can't quite remember, she maintains a base level of respect for him and has yet to trash him at all whatsoever in the media. So good for John and good for her. And yeah, this just kind of seems like, somebody was looking after his own business, and this was a mutually agreed upon situation. But of course, the internet wrestling community, the IWC, is like the meme of the two consenting adults, but then you have the freak out there at the window saying that they don't consent. Yeah, they wanted to drag Cena for this, but it didn't really manifest, and it just kind of ended up being much ado about nothing. And so they ended up lamenting the entire industry, because if you weren't aware of something that happened, I think it was last week, okay? Trump ended up signing an executive order to bring back presidential fitness standard tests, which I don't know why they got done away with, but whatever. And it's just kind of funny that it would be Trump of all presidents to bring back that fitness standard test, which I'm all for, by the way. But then also to bring on somebody who so publicly was on the gas for so long, but then also in the past couple of years, it had a massive heart attack and it have had to retire from in-ring activities, brings on Triple H, the head booker for the Fed, to be his representative for this initiative. And I would play you what was it, the White House tweeted out a video of Triple H doing his entrance right outside the White House. It was just like, it's so fucking funny, but you also got the game playing underneath of it. And for as much as I would love to play some Motorhead for everybody, that shit would get struck faster than one of these IWC freaks Rhea Ripley body pillows. So no, I'll just give you the gist on that one. Linda McMahon, I think still is the Secretary of Education for Trump. Vince and Trump have a very long and very storied, very well documented friendship. Now that Triple H has been brought into the fold, obviously that means that WWE is full on MAGA now, like loud, proud, and unashamed. But are you fucking having a laugh? Like, what the fuck are we doing? What on earth is causing this meltdown? Well, obviously. Vince McMahon's return is imminent, right? Triple H is saying the same things about Donald Trump and Vince McMahon. Oh my God! A pre-SummerSlam interview Triple H did with the Sports Agent podcast drew attention online after its release yesterday, August the 1st. I bet you didn't hear about this because this is the thing, right? I see this time and time again. There are so many people that want to say the WWE, oh my God, it's never been better. Look at all of these brand deals. Look at all of this promotion that they're doing. Look at all of these celebrities that they have in the audience. Oh my God, it's never been more popular. But then you go outside and you literally don't see anybody. As somebody who grew up during the Attitude Era, my first wrestling show that I remember watching, I know that I've seen some beforehand, but the one that I can remember with vivid recollection is WrestleMania 15. Arguably during that time, one of the worst WrestleManias. Still, from then all the way until WrestleMania 24, I was watching weekly whenever I could, if I didn't have football practice or something like that, interrupting, a Thursday if SmackDown was on, or I don't think anything landed on Monday, so I probably watched Raw throughout the entire time. And yeah, people were actually wearing wrestling shirts. There were Austin Rock DX shirts that were out there, and even during a Ruthless Aggression, you would have people with Johnson. I like there's the one, I think he wore it when he came out after his surprise return at, Royal Rumble 2008, but the Bulldog t-shirt that John Cena had, like you at least had that. You had ECW merch that was out there. Rob Van Dam merch, I remember seeing as well, but this time around, you don't see any of that shit that's out there. And the only time that anything out of the Fed gets referenced is when one of the old guys comes back, is when one of your stars of a bygone era, from the Attitude Era or from Ruthless Aggression, comes around. Or if one of the old timers from the Golden Era ends up kicking the bucket. That's about the only time that people reference modern day wrestling. And why is that? Because the IWC is fucking insane. But yes, primarily because, going back to this very popular, this very attention-drawing interview, because of the quotes in the podcast in which WWE's chief creative officer comments on President Donald Trump and former WWE chairman Vince McMahon. Neither is substantially different from Levesque's past answers about his fellow Hall of Famer or his father-in-law, but the renewed criticism of how the CCO and his entire company have handled their relationship to both, especially coming on the heels of his latest visit to the White House. Yeah, imagine that. You kind of highlight why Trump would be so involved with the Fed right now, because yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. He has a very long and very storied history with the WWE, the WWF, hosting WrestleManias 4 and 5 at his Atlantic City casino, being an integral part of WrestleMania 23. And Triple H, yeah, it wasn't just a visit to the White House, okay? He's helping with the fitness standards, because Trump's not just this insane guy that wants to fucking rule the world. No. He kind of wants to do this weird thing. I don't know if you've heard about it before, but he wants to make America great again by making individuals great as well. But we can quibble over a couple of the other things that he wants to make great again, involving a little foreign country in the Middle East. But I digress. WWE is MAGA. Triple H is obviously trying to set himself up to swerve JD Vance and become the new vice president. But if it wasn't so bad, the WWE has gone full MAGA. Women are not safe in the professional wrestling space. Oh, the ones that are pushed all the way to the top of the card, the ones that get overwhelming, coddling and protection, okay? I've referenced it before, but Charlotte Flair having her article in the Players Tribune about, oh, I need people to like me, otherwise I don't feel very good, okay? I don't like being booed. I'll fucking sack it up. Remember how during the early Attitude Era, before Shawn Michaels lost his smile, there were signs in the crowd saying Shawn Michaels has AIDS? Get out of here. Or how Becky Lynch can shit talk Ric Flair because her nickname rips off his legacy. Cool stuff. But we can just go down the list, okay? The harder the women get pushed in wrestling, the lower the ratings get. You just take a look, okay? whether it on USA, whether it on Netflix, whether it on the CW, every single time that it's ostensibly all women or predominantly a female-centric show, the ratings go through the floor. Never heard anything about, how well that Evolution pay-per-view, or whatever they fucking call it, PLEs now. Never seen how well that did. But I could definitely tell you it was the third lowest drawing show on the weekend, where they tried to counter-program AEW's big show. But no, don't worry about any of that stuff. Women are not safe in professional wrestling spaces. Female wrestlers aren't safe, and female fans aren't safe. A deeply misogynistic community and industry. But as you can see, and even with the previous snapshotted tweet that Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers shout out had, this all came over this past weekend. It came on, and they came out, and the only reason that they did numbers was because it was SummerSlam. Okay, it was something that was being talked about, I would imagine, but all of that stuff, and specifically this tweet right here about women not being safe, even though they were integral parts and they had a few shitty matches over the weekend. This is all because, well, there's somebody that came back that you might have heard about, and I can play at least a little bit of this, and I kind of want you to really understand the disconnect between the internet wrestling community and the people that actually go to these fucking shows.
On Cena.
Yeah, it's a little loud. Remember, this is an open-air stadium, by the way. This was taking place at the Meadowlands, where the Jets and the Giants play foosball. Yeah, Brock Lesnar, his first appearance in SummerSlam 2023, comes back, to thunderous applause. Huge pop on the night. But no, we can't have that, because Brock Lesnar was sort of implicated in this bag-chasing lawsuit that was filed in 2024. Like, what the fuck are we doing, dude? Janel Grant's representative issues a statement on Brock Lesnar's WWE return. Somebody that you didn't implicate by name, but you just simply wanted to rope him into your big scandalous lawsuit, one that seems like with every passing day, at best might go through arbitration, or at worst, fucking falls off, and you just end up with you end up at the end of the day with just the corn you're keeping in your hair and nothing else. Lesnar returned to the WWE in the closing moments of SummerSlam 2025 on Sunday night. He had been gone from the company since January 2024. It's sort of a lot earlier than that. Yes, following allegations and Grant's lawsuit against WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. Yeah, that lawsuit, which I covered quite a bit back in 2024, but it's undergone a few different permutations. Laurinaitis has flipped, and he's gone from the lawsuit, but there's been a bunch of changes. There's been some challenges that both sides have ended up winning. And honestly, it looks like at this point in time, things aren't working out well for Janel. Big shock on that one, especially when you have, Fight Game Media's Samantha Shipman posted a statement from Grant's team on Monday. For far too long, abuse was allowed to thrive under WWE's leadership. Instead of righting this wrong, WWE has done nothing to ensure those responsible are held accountable. Really, because it kind of seems like they're doing that with somebody who is just throwing out spurious allegations and taking them to court. This attempt to sweep misconduct under the rug will backfire. Really, can we play that pop again? Because it really seems like it's working out fairly fucking well. We look forward to the full set of facts, including those about Mr. Lesnar, who you never named in your lawsuit. Went over that goddamn thing. Coming out in the court of law, or whether they belong. But in the meantime, we refer you back to Janel Grant's updated complaint, which outlines in details the abuse she endured by McMahon. Right, when she was a pay-to-play whore getting bounced around Titan Towers, right? No, but she was a victim in all this stuff. A victim who, once again, after she was getting kicked to the curb, tried to leverage her position to get one final payday. Interesting. Endured by Mr. McMahon and others while employed at WWE. Grant publicly confirmed Lesnar by name in her amended lawsuit filed in January of 2025. Oh, okay. He was referred to as both a former UFC heavyweight champion and a WWE superstar in the original file suit. Lesnar's name now appears in the following section of Janel's amended lawsuit. It's funny how, a year later she had to come by after it was like, you really don't look like you have a case here. No, but Brock Lesnar, it's like, okay, cool. You kind of alluded to him beforehand, and that didn't help, but now this is supposed supposed to be better? All right. So, okay, that's the same thing about sharing, saucy pictures. Yeah, and now famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar, with whom WWE is actively trying to sign a new contract. Yeah, you just put Brock's name in there and nothing has really changed, even after pushing Ms. Grant out of the company and muzzling her with an NDA. Right, yeah, I just signed that one under distress, I'm sure, after you get a giant payday off of that for signing the fucking paper about allowing Vince to use your wig to wash off with. Like, just fucking stop it. It's shit like this and absolute retards who ruin every other form of entertainment, who are just so nefarious. Like I said before, and I can't remember which video it was, but I'm pretty sure we talked about it yesterday. If you have followed wrestling for as long as I have, and if you were somebody who was around at the time the wheels were really starting to fall off of the Fed in the late 2000s into the early 2010s, you could see how Hollywood was collapsing. You could see that, WWE had failed to make any stars outside of John Cena, how the ratings were collapsing, how they were relying so much on nostalgia in order to pop a rating here and there. You could see the blueprint and how it was being extrapolated onto Hollywood, how as they were continuing to die and languish in comparison to their golden years, fewer and fewer people were checking out the product, and it was just simply that same old toxic, unctuous fan base that was deriding the Attitude Era for being too sexist and misogynistic. They were the only ones that were left. Those were the representatives for your business. Now that they're the only ones that are left, or at least the most vocal ones that are out there, there's a reason why the Fed, when you really peel the hood back, is still absolutely dying. But hey, Cody Rhodes got the championship back. I'm sure it'll be a really fucking enjoyable and thoroughly entertaining second run. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.